the invisible mistake that could be ruining your heavy-duty routine and you don't even realize it. When we talk about heavy duty, most people focus on the obvious. Training with maximum intensity, taking every set to true muscular failure, and then resting enough to allow for supercompensation. However, there is a silent mistake, an almost invisible flaw that many make without realizing it, and which, according to Mike Mentzer, is one of the main reasons why thousands of practitioners never achieve the progress they should. This mistake is not execution technique, exercise selection, or even nutrition, although all of that matters. The mistake that Mentzer pointed out time and again in his conferences and articles is the excess of volume and frequency disguised as discipline or motivation. In Mike's words, most bodybuilders fail not from a lack of effort, but from doing too much. The problem is not intensity, but quantity. Heavy Duty I, 1979. What makes this mistake so dangerous is that it isn't felt immediately. It's a silent enemy. You might believe you're progressing because you feel active. You sweat a lot, you spend hours in the gym, and you feel productive. But the reality, as Mentzer warned, is that muscular progress happens outside the gym, never inside it. In fact, he stated that even advanced and professional athletes could remain stagnant for years because they were still trapped in this misunderstanding. And the most ironic thing is that many justified themselves by saying they were being dedicated, when in reality they were sabotaging their gains with overwork. That's why, in this chapter number 15, we are going to unmask this invisible mistake that ruins your heavy-duty routine, even if you don't notice it. We'll do it in 5 key sections, where we will detail the invisible mistake explained, what it really is, and how it infiltrates your training, why Mentzer considered it the biggest obstacle to progress, practical signs to detect it in your own routine even if you don't notice it at first, how to avoid it step by step, applying heavy-duty logic, real examples and guidelines to stay on the right path. This chapter is not just a warning, but a practical guide so you don't become one of those people who train hard but stay at the same point for months or even years. In Mike's words, the most difficult principle to accept is not that of intensity, but that of doing less. Modern man believes that the more he does, the better the result will be. In training, the opposite is true. Iron Man Magazine Interview 1994. Section 1. The invisible mistake explained what it really is and how it infiltrates your training. One clear definition in one sentence. The invisible mistake is the excess of work volume, frequency, warm-up sets, techniques or accumulation of fatigue that is camouflaged as discipline or hard work, and which, precisely because it doesn't feel dramatic on a daily basis, ends up nullifying the ability to progress. It is invisible because it rarely appears as a catastrophe. Instead, it comes in drops: one more set here, a just in case there, an extra warm-up set. Your reserves are too low to grow. To how it infiltrates the usual pathways with examples. These are the doors through which the mistake enters. Described as everyday behaviors. A. One more set. Escalation out of caution. You start with one effective set. One day you add one set just in case. Then another. Result. What was pure intensity becomes multiple sets that burn through recovery. Asterisk example. Plan equals 1x to failure. Reality equals 1x to failure plus 2 end-of-session sets that increase DOMs and increase RPE in upcoming sessions. Asterisk B. Warm-up creep or infinite warm-up. You add very conservative warm-up sets gives, then you start adding intermediate warm-up sets for safety gives, you end up with 20 to 30 minutes of workup that drains strength. Example, instead of 2 warm-ups you do 4 to 5, and the third set is already a partial failure. See advanced techniques stacked without criteria, rest pause plus negatives plus lep set, allowed having checked recovery, and the same session without having checked recovery. Example, you want to force adaptations and apply 3 techniques in the same exercise gives result, accumulated fatigue, poor sleep, elevated RHRD. Misjudged frequency stacking. You copy routines from pros or from social media with high frequency without adjusting recovery and without considering that those exceeding recovery. Example, switching from training 7 days a week to 5x high intensity believing that more days equals more stimulus. E-life plus training. The sum you don't see: stressful work, poor sleep, thinking your diet will compensate. The sum of stressors turns acceptable volume into net excess. Example, weeks with travel and less sleep where you decide to compensate with more sets. The sum sinks you. Comparison and premature change. You change routines frequently thinking it's not working, adding volume or frequency with each new version, without completing the minimum window. Example, changing programs every 3 weeks and increasing volume each time. 3. Why it is especially destructive in heavy-duty. Mentzer's logic. Mike Mentzer emphasized that intensity, the quality of the set, is the trigger for growth. Recovery is where adaptation occurs. In heavy duty, you only need one truly effective set of real intensity to produce a stimulus. If you multiply the effective set or add extra fatigue, you reduce the ability to perform that set with maximum tension the next time. The invisible mistake undermines precisely that. It turns the single set that should be maximal into something less effective because your CNS, muscular, and metabolic reserves are damaged. Mentzer summarized it. Modern man believes that the more he does, the better the result will be. In training, the opposite is true. For physiological and psychological mechanisms that make it invisible, why don't you notice it immediately? Because it acts in layers. A physiological mechanism's accumulated central fatigue. Constant repetition reduces the CNS's ability to generate peaks of fast recruitment. Peripheral fatigue and loss of muscular tension. Excess sets produce microdamage that isn't repaired in time, worsening output in the next session. Long-term hormonal dysregulation. If maintained, it can lower libido, energy, and anabolic capacity. Chronic cortisol, low testosterone in some cases, affected immune system. Higher frequency of colds, slower recovery. B. Psychological mechanisms, action bias, preferring to do something even if it's harmful. Ego, sunk cost fallacy. I've already paid for the membership. I'm going to train more. Confirmation bias, you look for signs that more is better. Interpreting sweat and exhaustion as progress. Social comparison, copying routines without context. 5. Not so dramatic signs that it has already infiltrated your routine. This is crucial. The mistake doesn't always make you drop the bar. They are subtle signs that your logbook and your body show you. Objective signs, what your notebook measures, reps per set, decreasing week to week with the same load. RIP increasing for the same load or same reps. Morning RHR increased by +3 to 5 BPM sustained. HRV consistently dropping if you use it. Lack of progress in 2 to 3 cycles. You don't increase weight reps. Increase in DOMs that doesn't disappear in 72H. Subjective signs, what you feel. Lack of desire to train. Variable motivation. More tension, irritability. Worse quality sleep. I train well but I don't grow. Feeling of being stagnant. Recovery that feels worse even with an adequate diet. 6. How to diagnose it in 10 minutes. Quick N equals 1 protocol. Do this right now in your logbook. Review your last 8 weeks. Are the repetitions of your key lifts anchors increasing, staying the same, or decreasing? Mark with +0. Morning RHR. Compare the average of the last 7 days with the average of the last 30 days. Is it +3 BPM or more? Yes, no. RPE trend. For a given load, is RPE increasing by 1 to 2 points? Yes, no. Document. Number of sessions per muscle group in the last month. Have you increased it without a plan? Yes, no. Summary. If 2 answers are yes, you are probably in the range of the invisible mistake. 7. Immediate actions. What to do today if you identify with it. If the quick diagnosis is positive, apply these actions immediately. Step 0. Stop the mental escalation. Do not make drastic changes. Reduce, do not add. The correction is by subtraction. Step 1. Rule of restriction 2472H in the next session. Go back to 1 effective set per key lift and remove all accessory sets. Reduce warm-up sets to the absolute minimum necessary. 40% gives 70% and no more. Step 2. Brief active stop if there are strong signs. If RHR is +5 BPM or there are systemic symptoms, gives active stop for 5 to 14 days. Walking, mobility, sleep, eat. Do not train to failure. Step 3. Review life plus nutrition. Ensure calories if you want to gain. +200 to 400 kilocalories and protein 1.6 to 2.0 grams per kilogram to improve recovery. Prioritize sleep 7 to 9H. Step 4. Restart with strict rules. Schedule a deload and then return with a minimum window. Beginner for weeks, intermediate 6 to 8. Advanced 8 to 12 before changing variables. Use the rule of 1 change if you are going to adjust something. Only 1 variable per block, for example, cadence or exercise selection. 8 preventive rules so it doesn't come back. Apply these rules as operating dogma, 1 variable at a time. No more than 1 effective set per key lift except for advanced cases with a reason. Cap on warm-up sets. 2 warm-ups 40 to 50% times 6 to 8. 70 to 75% times 3 to 5 unless technically necessary. No more than X total minutes per session, for example. 30 to 45 minute effective work plus warm-ups. Weekly check for rule. Reps TUT RPE RHR. If 2 quarters are moving badly, apply reduction. Schedule deload every 6 to 12 weeks depending on intensity and progress. Record everything. If it's not in the logbook, it doesn't exist for decision making. 9. Practical examples, real cases, how it appears and how to correct it. Case A. Beginner who does everything. Symptoms: starts with good intentions, adds sets for fear of failing, trains for days with high volume. Diagnosis: RPE increases, no +1 rep in 6 weeks. Correction: return to 1 effective set. Deload for 1 week. Slightly increased CACOL, follow windows. Case B. Intermediate who copies pros. Symptom: copies a magazine routine 5 sessions week and doesn't rest. Feels gains at first, then plateaus. Diagnosis: RHR +4 BPM. Poor sleep. Correction: reduce frequency to 1 session per muscle group every 5 to 7 days. Record key lifts. Aim for monthly micro progressions. Case C. Advanced who mixes techniques. Symptom: uses rest pause plus negatives plus drop sets in every session. Feels hard but doesn't increase loads. Diagnosis: high RPE, minor infections, low libido, Correction. Eliminate extra techniques. Reintroduce one technique per cycle when recovery is okay. Consider an active stop of 2 to 4 weeks. 10 immediate template for your logbook to detect an act. Paste this on the first page. Weekly checkmark reps. Tut progression in 2 key lifts. +0 RHRA VG 7D versus 30D ±2 OK 3 for caution +5 alarm. RPE for the same load equals sleep HRS _ protein gram per kilogram _ if 2 items are X score, EP score, X score Fs, KCS score if 2 item Kesequai, Xesha Rubik score, X score, if cans, remove Kepsix, cans, reset with Sexa Rusklixli Premu, Xep, who quick set to sell with X6 active power with foreign poor Asua with Black Pada for that power poop where Musip up our set to add plywood will with that word that wet wicked with la attack up with a pasta but do us but with that at us but it will got it will get that 11 practical quotes from Mentzer to emphasize the point to be productive. Bodybuilding exercise must be intense, brief, and infrequently performed. If you don't rest enough, you don't grow enough. Use them as mnemonic rules. Less is not laziness, it is precision. 12 section. Conclusion. The invisible mistake is simple to understand but difficult to combat because it disguises itself as hard work and dedication. Its power lies in accumulation. Small transgressions to the rule of stimulus economy end up erasing the advantage of heavy duty. The solution is equally simple, but demands discipline. Measure, reduce, respect windows, and let the body do the work outside the gym. Section 2. Why Mentzer considered the invisible mistake. The biggest obstacle to progress here, we break down the deep reason for Mike Mentzer. This mistake was not a technical detail, but the main philosophical flaw that turns a correct method into something ineffective. I'll explain it in depth: mechanics, physiology, psychology, and practical consequences, and, at the end, I'll give you clear rules and a micro-correction plan. Mentzer believed that covert excess work destroys the only variable that truly generates growth in heavy duty, the intensity administered in one truly effective set. In his logic, more work does not equal more progress. More poorly dosed work equals less progress. Conceptual reasons why he saw it as problem number 1. A. It attacks the central premise of heavy duty. Heavy duty is based on the idea that one real set of high intensity is enough to provoke the growth stimulus. If you add extra volume or fatigue, you dilute the effective intensity of that set. It's no longer as intense, or you do it when recovery is compromised. Result: the cause gives effect relationship, stimulus gives recovery, gives adaptation, is lost, and that's why the method stops working as designed. B. It breaks the stimulus-recovery balance. Mentzer repeated. Gains happen outside the gym during recovery. Excess work turns the session into a continuous drain on reserves instead of a clear trigger. With depleted reserves, the body does not overcompensate. Chronic stagnation. C. It deactivates the capacity of the central nervous system (CNS) to produce maximum contractions. You need a CN in optimal condition. The accumulation of sets and aggressive techniques reduces the CNS's ability to generate peaks of motor unit recruitment. The intense sets end up not being so intense. Mentzer observed this as the equivalent of trying to make fire with wet wood. You put in a lot of effort but no effective flame comes out. D. It generates incorrect psychological feedback. Sweat, fatigue, and hours in the gym are interpreted as productivity. Mentzer called this the trap of visible virtue. Effort is confused with effectiveness. This feedback keeps people in a cycle of doing more when they should do less, better. E. It facilitates the adoption of non-adapted routines. Extrapolation bias. Many copy programs from athletes, pros without context, drugs, genetics, superior recovery. Mentzer saw this as another reason people increase volume without seeing returns. They are imitating obligations foreign to their biology. Practical consequences. He observed why this translates to real stagnation, denied progression. No one increases loads consistently. If the set that supposedly produces adaptation is not executed with maximum tension, more injuries and discomfort. Excess volume plus technical fatigue equals deteriorated technique equals risk. Chronic fatigue, subclinical overtraining, loss of strength, libido, altered sleep, low immunity, waste of time, more sessions, more work, but less results per hour invested. Mentzer repeated that the modern bodybuilder deceives themselves by thinking more hours equals more muscle, when in reality they are building a recovery bill they cannot pay. Physiological and adaptation mechanisms he had in mind expressed in accessible terms. Insufficient CNS gives lower motor unit recruitment in the effective set. Accumulated microdamage gives chronic inflammatory response that prevents effective protein synthesis between sessions. Altered hormones and homeostasis gives chronic elevation of relative cortisol, possible reduction of free testosterone in the medium term in extreme cases. Compromised immune system gives frequent minor infections and slowed recovery. All this means the stimulus stops being information to grow and becomes aggression that wears you down. Real-life examples. How Mentzer illustrated it. The novice who adds sets just in case and then wonders why they don't progress. What happened is that set 1 no longer had the necessary quality. The advanced lifter who stacks techniques in every session because they see results in others or in magazines. They confuse short-term changes, inflammation, pump, temporary appearance with progress. Mentzer often used stories of bodybuilders who worked harder than anyone and ended up with worse numbers than those who trained less but with greater precision. Why removing this error is harder than adding something new culturally. More work is valued. Removing sets feels like doing less. Psychologically, there is a need for action. If you reduce, the ego demands immediate evidence, and in its absence, work is increased again. Practically, it requires discipline to measure and wait for longer adaptation windows. Patience is antithetical to instant gratification. Mentzer insisted that doing less requires intellectual conviction, accepting that less, better applied work is the fastest path to real progress. How Mentzer proposed to solve it. Summary of his philosophical proposal, reduced to the necessary minimum. 1 effective set per key lift, except for justified exceptions. Measure and obey the logbook. The logbook, not the feeling, dictates if the stimulus was sufficient. Prioritize rest. More rest between sessions if strength increases slowly. Don't punish the body to force progress. Avoid techniques based on trends. Use advanced techniques only occasionally and with recovery criteria. In his discourse, Mentzer called on people to think like scientists of their own body. Hypothesis gives controlled stimulus, gives observe over time, gives conclude. Derived operating rules, what to apply today. 1 variable at a time. If you change something, do it for a complete block. 1 effective set per key lift based heavy-duty rule. Cap on warm-ups, 2 standard warm-up sets unless technically necessary. Scheduled deloads and active stops if RHR/RPE are not favorable. Life control, sleep, calories, and stress are corresponsible. If they fail, reduce stimulus. Sacred recording. Write everything down. No excuses. Indicators that the solution is working. What to expect if you apply the opposite. Micro gains return. +1 rep or microload on key lifts every 4 to 8 weeks depending on level. Improvement in RPE at the same weight decreases. RHR/HRV improves or stabilizes, fewer days lost to illness or discomfort. Mentzer celebrated obvious efficiency. When you do less and produce more, the evidence is seen in the logbook. Don't confuse diligence with productivity. In heavy duty, real discipline is knowing when to stop. Philosophy in line with Mike Mentzer. Section 3. Practical signs to detect the invisible mistake, even if you don't notice it at first. Mentzer's framework: what you don't measure, you don't control, and what you don't control controls you. The only way to see excess disguised as discipline is to assign numbers and thresholds to it. 0. How to read this section in 20 seconds. What you will measure. Performance reps, load, TUT, RPE, recovery, sleep, pulse, HRV, DOMS, systemic state, appetite, libido, mood, colds. How you will judge it. With traffic light thresholds and time windows 2 to 8 weeks. How to apply it day to day. A pre-post workout checklist, a 10-minute weekly review, and a simple decision tree. Continue. Reduce, active, stop. 1 objective signs your logbook commands. A strength and rep progression. Key exercises. What to note. Load, valid reps, TUT, time under tension for the set. RPE. Mentzer compatible thresholds. Green, OK, +1 rep in 1 to 3 weeks or +1 to 2% load. With same RPE. TUT stable ±10% for the same cadence. Yellow, warning, invisible mistake possible. 2 weeks without plus reps or plus load with equal or higher RPE. TUT drops greater than 10% at same reps, shortening cadence to save reps. Red, intervention. 2 consecutive sessions with 1 rep and higher RPE at same load. Technical failure before the usual point. ROM reduces/cheating appears. Example: gym incline machine press. S1 90 kg times 8 reps. TUT 48 SRPE 9. *S2 90 kg times 8 reps. TUT 44 SRPE 9.5. S3 90 kg times 7 reps. TUT 39 SRPE 9.5. Gives yellow, gives red. Cadence speeds up, TUT drops, and then reps drop with higher RPE. Classic sign of accumulated fatigue. Example: home goblet squat. S1 36 kg times 12 reps. TUT 60 S RPE 9. *S2 36 kg times 12 reps. TUT 56 S RPE 9.5. S3 36 kg times 11 reps. TUT 53 S RPE 9.5. Gives same pattern. Unsustainable intensity equals covert excess. BRPE. As an efficiency barometer. What to note. RPE only on the effective set. 10 equals absolute maximum with strict form. Practical threshold. At the same load and reps, RPE should decrease or stay the same. Increases by 1 to 2 points. Sustained gives hidden fatigue, invisible mistake. Example, weighted pull-ups 15 kilograms, 6 reps, asterisk 3 weeks ago, RPE 9. Today RPE 9.5 with no improvement in reps gives warning. See TUT time under tension. And cadence asterisk what to note. Target cadence, for example, 214 plus total TUT of the set. Sign of infiltration. Lowering TUT to save reps. If you go from 48s gives 38s at the same reps, you are compensating with speed. D morning pulse RHR and HRV. If you use it 7-day protocol, asterisk take RHR upon waking, 5 to 7 days week. Calculate weekly average thresholds, asterisk plus 3 to 4 beats per minute over your 30-day average gives yellow, plus 5 beats per minute 4 is greater than or equal to 3 days or alternating with poor sleep gives red, asterisk HRV, sustained drop versus your personal average not absolute values equals systemic fatigue. EDOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, asterisk Mentzer-like reference. The set to failure can hurt, but if DOMS lasts greater than 72H repeatedly, the volume frequency is eating you up. Practical sign, DOMS greater than 72H plus drop in reps equals red. FAN sleep, appetite, libido, colds, mini record, 0 to 2. Sleep, 0 equals less than 6H. 1 equals 6 to 7H, 2 equals 7 to 9H. Appetite, calories, 0 equals unplanned deficit over 1 equals questionable maintenance. Over 2 equals adequate. Libido, 0 equals low, 1 equals medium, 2 equals normal. High asterisk colds, 0 equals present, 1 equals mild, 2 equals none. Red patterns, 2 indicators at 0.4 is greater than or equal to 2 weeks. 2 subjective signs you shouldn't ignore. Motivation drops for no external reason. Pre-workout anxiety and feeling of empty tank. Feeling of joint muscular heaviness before starting the warm-up, needing to lengthen warm-ups to get warmed up. Symptom of fatigue. How to distinguish useful discomfort, burning, local hypoxia, appears during the set and goes away in minutes. Real alarm exhaustion, accompanies you all day, steals desire to train and to eat. Sleep. 3 Mentzer traffic light weekly control dashboard indicator green continue, yellow monitor red act reps, load key lift plus 1 rep or plus 1 to 2% in is less than or equal to 3 WKS to WKS. No improvement to sessions in a row minus 1 rep same load RPE, same load reps equals or plus 1.1 to WKS is greater than or equal to 2 points or plus 1 and drop in reps. TUT cadence stable 10 to 15% greater than 15% to save reps RHR plus or minus 0 to 2 versus 30 DAVG plus 3 to 4 for 3 days plus 5-4 is greater than or equal to 3 days. DOMS 48H 48 to 72H repeated greater than 72H repeated. Sleep 02 to 10 repeated. Libido. Appetite 02 to 10 repeated. Operating rule. 2 cells in red or 3 in yellow in the same week gives you are in invisible mistake territory. For decision tree simple and actionable. Are your key lifts improving? Yes gives continue as is don't add anything. No gives go to 2. Is RPE rising or TUT falling? Yes gives reduce volume 1 effective set per key lift. Limit warm-ups to 2. Review sleep food for 7 days. No gives go to 3. RRHR plus HRV altered / DOMS greater than 72H. Yes gives active stop for 5 to 14 days. Walk mobility. Sleep 8H. Plus 200 to 400 kilocalories if goal is to gain. No gives adjust frequency more rest between sessions. And reevaluate in 2 weeks. 5 day-to-day application gym and home before training 2 minutes. Check RHR and sleep. If RHR plus 5 or slept 6H, remove accessories today. Review today's key lift. Goal equals match or plus 1 rep at same cadence. During effective set, controlled cadence, don't cut ROM RPE when finished. Note it immediately. After 3 minutes record, load valid reps / TUT, RPE observations, pain, technique. Quick note of DOMS the next day 022. Example gym, backlot pull down today. 75 kilograms times 9 reps TUT 54 SRPE 9. Observation last rep was clean. If next session 75 kilograms times 8 reps TUT 46 SRPE 9.5 gives yellow. Remove bicep accessories that day. Example home dumbbell press today. 34 kilograms each times 10 reps TUT 50 SRPE 9. If DOMS greater than 72H and RHR plus 4 gives postpone next push session by 48 to 72H 6 bi-weekly reading 10 minutes every 2 weeks. Simple graph in your logbook reps of 2 key lifts mark. Weeks with high RHR or poor sleep with an asterisk. If you see a plateau plus asterisks, correct frequency volume. Don't change exercises yet. If after 2 weeks of correction microgains return, the diagnosis was correct. 7-3 typical patterns of the invisible mistake and their correction. Pattern A. I add accessories because I feel good sign. Week 1 okay. Week 2 you no longer improve. Week 3 reps drop. Correction. Go back to 1 key set. Accessories only if RHR is normal and key lift is progressing. Pattern B. Warm-up that steals your set sign. 4 to 5 warm-up sets. You arrive flat for the effective one. Correction. 2 warm-up sets, 40 to 50% times 6 to 8, 70 to 75% times 3 to 5, and straight to the effective set. Pattern C, phantom strength sign. You maintain reps on paper, but TUT drops 20% and ROM shortens. Correction. Lock cadence with a mental metronome. Accept 1 rep if form is strict. Recover for 1 to 2 weeks and go back up. 8 pocket mini checklists before closing the logbook. +1 rep or +1 to 2%. Yes, no RPE equal or less. Yes, no TUT stable 10%. Yes, no RHR within your average. Yes, no DOMS 72H. Yes, no gives. If to no gives, you are entering the invisible mistake. Reduce and reevaluate. Mike Mentzer message to lock it in. Brief, infrequent, and intense is not a slogan. It's a control system. If the numbers are moving badly, you don't need more stimulus, you need less and better. 10. Expected result. If you apply this for 6 to 8 weeks, micro improvements return. 1 rep, 1 to 2% load. Without increasing RPA, TUT stops falling. Technique consolidates, RHR stabilizes, DOMS within 48H. You regain motivation and nerve in the key sets. This is the filter that allows you to see what is not visible to the naked eye. In heavy duty, your logbook is the mirror. If you learn to read it, the invisible mistake stops being invisible. Section 4. How to avoid the invisible mistake step by step, applying heavy-duty logic, practical, actionable, and faithful to Mike Mentzer's philosophy. Intense, brief, and infrequent. This section is the correction manual, concrete instructions you apply today, tomorrow, and for the next 8 weeks to bulletproof your progress. Each step includes what to do, why it's effective, numerical parameters, and examples. At the end, you have quick rules, a decision tree, and an 8-week template to start. Operating principle, the mother rule. If you are not progressing, subtract first, then investigate. Less is not laziness, it is precision. Do only one new thing at a time and decide by data, not by feelings. Step 0. Mental preparation before touching the routine. Decide to be methodical. You will measure 4 variables in each block: reps, TUT, RPER, HR. Print your rule of 1 change. During a block 4 to 8 weeks, only change 1 variable. Except that the initial correction is by subtraction. It will remove noise before gains return. Step 1. Immediate audit today. 10 to 20 minute objective. Detect current accumulation and establish a baseline. What to do? Review your logbook for the last 6 to 8 weeks. Mark key lifts, 2 to 3 main exercises, and note trend of reps. Load TUT note, morning RHR average last week versus 30-day average. Do the quick check. If 2 indicators in red gives, proceed to step 2. If all green, apply preventive. Step 3. Expected result. Clear diagnosis. OK, monitor. Correct. Step 2. Immediate intervention if you detected a problem. Objective. Cut the accumulation of fatigue right now. Actions apply in the next session. Rule of 1. For each key lift, only 1 effective set to technical failure. Remove all non-essential accessory sets. Limit warm-ups to 2 sets. 40 to 50% times 6 to 8. 70 to 75% times 3 to 5. Nothing more. No extra techniques, rest, pause, negatives, drop sets. Until the end of the correction block. Reduce total session duration. Target 30 to 45 min, including warm-ups, nutrition, and sleep. Add immediate priority, plus 200 kcal-d, if aiming to gain. Prioritize 7 to 9 h of sleep that week. Why it works: it removes demand and allows reserves to replenish. The effective set becomes true again. Step 3. Active stop if strong systemic signs. When to apply RHR plus 5 BPM sustained. Very low libido, repeated illness, clear performance drop. What to do 5 to 14 days. Activity, walk, gentle mobility. Light swimming, no sets to failure. Nutrition, maintenance, slight surplus, plus 200 to 400 kilocalories. Sleep, prioritize 8 to 9 h. Evaluation on day 7. If signs improve, reintroduce work with step 4. If not, extend and consider professional consultation. Why it works: allows CNS recovery and reduction of chronic inflammation. Step 4. Program redesign. 6 to 8 week block. Objective: start progressing again with control. Corrected base, heavy duty template. Frequency per muscle group. 1 session per group every 4 to 10 days depending on level. Beginner, 1x per group every 4 to 7 days. Intermediate, 1x every 5 to 9 days. Advanced natural, 1x every 7 to 10 days. Sets per key lift. 1 effective set. Warm-ups, 2 warm-up sets 40 to 50% times 6 to 8, 70 to 75% times 3 to 5. Accessories, 0 to 1 non-fatiguing set for balance or technique optional, only if recovery is okay. Advanced techniques, no more than 1 technique per cycle and only if data shows recovery. Deload week every 6 to 12 weeks, 50 to 70% volume intensity. Example: 6-week block, press and back. Week 1, press 1 effective set record, back 1 effective set. Week 2, rest, active recovery. Focus on sleep and kcal. Week 3, repeat press, back session if readiness okay. Week 4. Evaluation and micro-progression if +1 rep or +0.5 to 2% load. Week 5. Consolidate. Week 6. Active deload or technique session based on data. Step 5. Control instruments, what to measure and with what thresholds. Always measure and compare against your baseline. Variables and thresholds. Reps key lift +1 in 2 to 4 weeks equals okay. 2 weeks no improvement equals monitor. RPE should stay the same or decrease. +1 sustained equals warning. TUT. Plus or minus 10% equals stable. Drop 10% equals compensation signal. Airheads airdoor, BBM normal. +3 to 4 equals caution. 5 igual a alarm de OMS y 48 horas ideal. 48 to 72H occasional greater than 72H repeated equals problem. Practical tool. Weekly sheet 1 page with reps TUT, RPE, RHR, sleep KCAL. 10-minute review every 7 days. Step 6. Strict intervention rules. If deviation appears, implement the traffic light rule. 2 yellows gives reduce volume. Remove accessories and limit warm-ups to 1 additional warm-up set. 1 red gives active stop 5 to 7 days. And analyze life, sleep, stress, food. 2 reds give stop 10 to 14 days and consult if persistent. Application. Don't improvise. Follow the rule without trying to force it due to ego. Step 7. Ego education. Conscious training. Keep a statement of purpose in your logbook. Goal. Strength. Mass X in 6 months. My tool. Measured intensity. Every time you feel tempted to add sets, write down the reason. Emotion versus data. If it's emotion, don't do it. Why? The discipline to subtract is mental. Turning it into a habit is key. Step 8. Controlled reintroduction of techniques when data allows it. Criterion for reintroducing a technique, for example, rest pause. You must have 4 consecutive weeks of micro-progression in 2 key lifts. RHR stable ±2 BPM. Master recovery DOMS less than 48H. Introduce 1 technique and 1 exercise of the cycle. Record effect for 6 weeks before adding another. Step 9. How to adapt if your life is stressful. Work, family. If chronic stress, reduce frequency, more rest days between sessions before reducing load. Consider training less often with more recovery. For example, go from 1x4D to 1x710D per muscle group. Prioritize sleep and cake all. If you can't, lower the programmed intensity instead of adding volume. Step 10. Practical 8-week template ready to use. 8-week block to regain control. Week 0 baseline. Audit plus adjust K-call sleep. Week 1. Implement rule of 1-1 key set. 2 warm-ups, nothing extra. Record week 2. Maintain. Review. RHR on day 7. Week 3. If +1 rep in 1 key lift gives microload plus small note. If not, gives maintain. Week 4. Midterm evaluation data. If 2 quarters indicators okay, gives optional light technique. Week 5. Consolidation or active stop if indicators are bad. Week 6. Attempt guided progression microload if allowed. Week 7. Prepare deload if 4 to 6 intense weeks have accumulated. If all okay, continue. Week 8. Active deload. 50 to 70% intensity plus global review and plan for next block. Mental download. Every 8 weeks you review and change no more than 1 variable. Quick decision tree printable. Are your key lifts progressing? Gives yes equals maintain. No equals go to 2R RPE TUTR HR in range. Gives no equals reduce volume rule of 1 and 1 week of control. Do data improve in 2 weeks? Gives yes equals try micro progression again. No equals active stop. Quick rules to paste in logbook. 3 lines. 1 effective set per key lift, not for fun. 2 warm-ups and then the set that counts. If 2 indicators fail, gives reduce. If it persists, gives stop. Concrete correction examples. Before gives after. Before press. 1 set to failure plus 2 accessory sets for warm-up sets. Occasional rest pause. RHR plus 4. Reps dropping. Action. Remove accessories. Limit warm-ups to 2 sets. Stop rest pause after 4 weeks. RHR normalizes. Reps return to +1. RPE drops. Before home. Goblet squat 3 sets to failure +1. Rest pause technique. DOMS 72H. Action 1 effective set. Controlled TUT. Add post-workout mobility. Result. DOMS controlled progress in 6 weeks. Final tips to maintain the system. Do the weekly review without emotions. The data commands. Create a repair, routine, sleep, meals, walks as part of the plan. If in doubt, restriction reduce is always the first action, not add. Closing quote, Mentzer mindset. Beginners seek work. Winners seek results. The heavy-duty method demands you think in terms of result, not occupation. Operating motto inspired by Mike Mentzer. Section 5. Real examples and guidelines to stay on the right path. Extensive, practical, and faithful to what Mike Mentzer said, with concrete steps, templates, and control signals. Objective of this section. For you to see how the invisible mistake appears in concrete cases, how to correct it step by step, and what practical rules to apply forever so your heavy duty starts producing progress. Again, the conclusions are taken and synthesized from Mentzer's teachings. heavy-duty interviews and compilations, and from how he applied his method with clients. Quick introduction: why examples matter. Examples show the real way excess disguised as hard work kills the effectiveness of heavy-duty. Mentzer used concrete cases to illustrate why the solution is always the same: less, better, and measured. The templates and decisions you'll see below are exactly the practical corrections he would propose. Case 1. Beginner: I want to do more for fear of not doing enough. Profile: trains 3 to 4 months. Enthusiastic: reads forums, adds sets just in case. Initial plan: 1 effective set per group. Theoretical reality: 2 to 3 sets plus accessories per session. How the error manifests: stagnant reps, RPE rises slightly. DOMs that doesn't subside in 72H. High motivation, but no progress data in the logbook. Step-by-step correction: apply today. Immediate reset. Next session equals 1 effective set per key lift. Eliminate accessories. Strict warm-up: 2 warm-up sets, 40 to 50% times 6 to 8, 70 to 75% times 3 to 5. Mandatory recording. Load reps, tut RPE. Trial period: 6 weeks without changing anything else. If no improvement, small K call increase plus 200 and repeat 6 weeks. If it persists, deload for 1 week. Expected result in 6 to 8 weeks. Visible recovery: plus 1 rep on key lift or plus 1 to 2% load. Less DOMs. Mentzer would advise patience. The evidence comes from the logbook, not from the feeling. Case 2. Intermediate: I copied a pro's routine and I don't know why I'm not progressing. Profile: 2 to 4 years training. Copies high-volume program from a magazine athlete. Trains 4 to 6 days week and feels like it's still hard. How the error manifests: starts with small gains and then stagnation. RHR shows signs of a slight increase, often justifies it with "I need more time," but the logbook shows a decline or stagnation. Step-by-step correction. De-escalate frequency: switch to 1 session per muscle group every 5 to 9 days depending on level. Mentzer emphasized that professionals and naturals are not comparable. The frequency of pros is usually not applicable. Eliminate stacked methods. Remove rest, pause, and drops until recovery is proven. 6 to 8 weeks. Implement micro-progressions. Only when the logbook shows plus 1 rep or plus 1 to 2% load. Introduce microloading. Weekly check. RHR, RPE, and 2TH. If 2 red signals gives, apply reduction. Practical guideline: 8-week template. Weeks 1 to 2, 1 key set per group. Optional non-fatiguing accessories. Weeks 3 to 4, reevaluate. If plus 1 rep on 1 key lift gives plus 0.5 to 1 kilogram in load. Weeks 5 to 6, consolidate. Weeks 7 to 8, active deload if accumulation, or continue if data is okay. Case 3. Advanced natural: I use advanced techniques constantly. Profile: 5 years training. Natural: looks for additional stimuli. Rest, pause, negatives. Pre-exhaustion: every session believes he needs to push more to progress. How the error manifests: low libido, interrupted sleep. More frequent you are, his colds. RHR plus 4 to 6 BPM 4 weeks. Sporadic performance increases but with significant setbacks. Step-by-step correction. Mentzer strategy: brief active stop. 7 to 14 days if systemic symptoms. Mentzer advocated for long pauses if the body is not yet recovered. Sometimes 96 hours between sessions and more for some. Controlled re-implementation: 1 effective set per key lift. Only 1 advanced method per cycle. 6 to 8 weeks. And only if data allows it. Indirect hormonal monitoring: if libido and sleep do not improve, increase rest and consult if it persists. Rule of 1 change: in each block change only 1 variable. Cadence, exercise selection technique. Expected result in 4 to 8 weeks. Improved sleep. RHR returns to baseline and performance returns on a more solid foundation. Mentzer emphasized the need to see recovery as part of the stimulus. Case for Mentzer: clients synthesized historical example based on accounts and the evolution Mentzer described when working with bodybuilders and clients. Typical profile: client prone to overtraining, had tried high-volume routines. Mentzer reduced volume frequency, made them record data, and scheduled long rest periods between sessions. Process and result: strict recording. Every set recorded with load reps, tut RPE. Drastic reduction. Switch to 1 to 2 total sets per session and 4 to 7 plus days between stimuli. Observation: within a few weeks, performance recovered and consistent progression resumed. Lesson: the economy of stimulus works. The evidence: consistent progression without adding gym hours. Practical guidelines to not deviate. Permanent checklist. Paste this in your logbook and check before each week. Did I only do 1 effective set per key lift in the last session? Yes, no. Warm-ups limited. 2 warm-up sets maximum. Yes, no. Do I have plus 1 rep or plus 1 to 2% load on any key lift in 4 weeks? Yes, no. RHR stable plus or minus 2 BPM? Yes, no. DOMS 72H? Yes, no. If 2 answers no gives, apply restriction rule. Reduce volume today. Mental rules: phrases Mentzer would repeat. Train to give the signal, not to punish the tissue. If you don't rest, you don't grow. The task is not to prove you can suffer. It is to prove you can progress. Paraphrase of his philosophy. Quick templates: copy, paste into your logbook. Template A: Heavy duty session minimum. Exercise key lift _warm up 1% load times reps warm up 2% load times reps effective set load times reps times tut times RPE notes pain form feeling template B. Weekly check 10 minutes key lift 1 reps gives change from previous week plus equals RHRAV G7D baseline 30D sleep average 7D HDOMS yes per no duration action. Maintain reduce volume / active stop signs. You are on the right path. What to see in 4 to 8 weeks plus 1 rep or micro load on key lifts RPE equal or less for the same load. RHI normalizes fewer days with systemic fatigue, more energy and better sleep. Final warnings and training ethics: don't copy without adapting. Mentzer emphasized individual experimentation. What works for one may not be ideal for another, but always measure. Don't confuse trends with science. Advanced techniques are fine, but they should only be introduced if recovery and data allow it. Section closing: what you should take away. If there is one practical lesson, the correction of the invisible mistake is always by subtraction. Remove to rebuild. Control with data logbook. Feelings are not enough. Mentzer said it and practiced it. Less measured and with prioritized recovery. That is the path for heavy duty to truly work. General conclusion. Chapter 16. The invisible mistake that could be ruining your heavy-duty routine. Executive summary. Essentials in 3 sentences. The central problem is the covert excess of work. Small additions, sets, warm-ups, techniques or days that accumulated destroy the capacity of the single set that should produce the stimulus. Mike Mentzer taught that less, measured, and with recovery is the way. Real intensity in the set gives adequate recovery. Outside the gym gives progress. The solution is simple in theory and disciplined in practice. Measure, remove the unnecessary weight for the data to confirm you will advance before adding stimulus. What to apply from today, step by step, day by day. 1. Act now. First day orders: go back to the rule of 1. 1 effective set per key exercise. Remove unnecessary accessories. Limit your warm-ups to 2 sets, 40 to 50% times 6 to 8, and 70 to 75% times 3 to 5. Always note, load valid reps tut RPE and a quick note on sleep and DOMS. 2. Simple daily routine checklist before training. Did you sleep is greater than or equal to 7H? Yes, no. Is morning RHR within your average plus or minus 2 BPM? Yes, no. If any answer is no, reduced accessories today and respect the effective set. Warm-up gives activation, gives to warm-up sets, gives effective set, gives immediate recording. 3. Weekly review. 10 minutes review for variables. Reps, key, lift, tut, RPE, RHR, traffic light. 2 yellows gives reduced volume. 1 red gives active stop 5 to 14 days. If you see plus 1 rep or plus 1 to 2% load in 2 to 4 weeks, don't change anything else, consolidate. 4-6-8 week block work plan. Week 0, audit and initial adjustment. Weeks 1 to 6, 1 key set, measure and do not add variables. Week 7, evaluation. If data okay, gives micro progression. If not, gives deload or active stop. Practical guidelines to not deviate again, permanent rules. 1 variable per block, only change 1 thing every 4 to 8 weeks. No stacked techniques. Maximum 1 advanced technique per cycle and only if data allows. Scheduled deloads at least every 6 to 12 weeks depending on intensity and signals. Life first. If sleep, hunger or stress fail, reduce stimulus. External recovery is corresponsible. Sacred logbook. If it's not in the book, it's not evidence. Signs of success. What to expect and when. In 2 to 4 weeks, lower RPE or more consistent toot, better sleep. In 4 to 8 weeks, plus 1 rep or microload on key lifts. DOMS controlled less than 48 to 72H. In 8 to 12 weeks, stable progression and lower frequency of minor discomforts. Desire to train returns intact. How to fix when something fails, quick protocol. Identified 2 red signals gives active start 5 to 14 days, mobility, walking, sleeping, eating. If only yellows gives reduce. Remove accessories, limit warm-ups. Retest gives if it improves. Return. If not, extend, stop and consider professional consultation. Mental tips to maintain discipline. Change the mantra from work more to show progress. Every time you want to add something on impulse, ask yourself, do my data justify it? Patience is the tool, the logbook, the judge. Make it scientific with yourself. Summary of concrete actions to print in your logbook, ultra short version. 1 effective set per key lift. 2 warm-ups, 40 to 50% times 6 to 8. 70 to 75% times 3 to 5. Record load reps, tut, RPER, HR review weekly. If 2 indicators in red gives reduce/stop. Closing phrase in the style of Mike Mentzer to keep in your logbook. Train less, train better. Intensity alone is not enough. The intelligence to stop is what turns effort into progress. And to close with a quote from him that summarizes the philosophy. To be productive, bodybuilding exercise must be intense, brief and infrequently performed. Mike Mentzer.